Hey guys, welcome back to SureFire Live. I hope you are having a great week. My week has not started awesome. I just want to tell you that. I wrecked my car yesterday and I was on the way to a gym. It was at 4:30 in the morning, road I drive every day. And I hit a patch of some kind of ice or wet leaves or something, a hard 90-degree turn, and boom, right off the road. And I clipped a tree, and today I woke up real sore on this side of my body, and so it was a rough start to the week. I was looking forward to getting back to working out, and man, it was a bad morning. I got an early comment, so let's talk the success kit tonight. That's Mr. Chad. Yeah, so I am going to talk the success kit. Before we get started, again, this is a two-way conversation, so please talk to me. I have realized that for some reason, if you're watching on my personal Facebook page, that I don't get the messages through this thing called StreamYard. I have to watch it on my phone to see some of the messaging, and I can't show it on here, and I don't know why, some technical glitch. But please watch wherever you can, and please comment. So today was a kind of another tough day. I had one of my employees that we had to kind of terminate our relationship, and it was mutual, but it was also very tough. He's a younger guy. He's in his 30s, and he's blind, and he has macular degeneration. And some of you guys have seen me post about him. You've seen me brag on him because he's just an amazing person, but it's a degenerative disease, and it's come to a point where it's just too dangerous out there for everybody involved. At one point, he could kind of see enough. And my main reason I want to talk about that is because this guy wants to work, and he can't. And, in the physical realm, like the blue-collar fields that we are in. And, one day he told me, he said, Mark, I hear these guys bitching, forgive the language, that's what he said, and complaining about work and how much they've got to do in this and that. And he said, I just wish for one day they could be in my shoes. I wish I could have a vision for one day and be able to work. I wish I could drive a van. I wish I could be one of your technicians. And when I hear these guys complain, I wish, and he said this exactly, he said, I wish I could put some eye drops in their eyes and dilate their eyes like mine are, and put on glasses to make them see like I see. And I promise you, they would be very, they'd have a different view on work and what it is like. And that really resonated with me. And so today, we kind of had to say goodbye, and he understood why. But I told him, I said, there's some things that you've said over the years you've been with me that have really stuck with me. And that was one of them, but pretty profound because we live in a time right now where a lot of people don't want to work. A lot of people complain if the work's hard. Man, I can tell you, it's a lot. We are so fortunate. You're fortunate to be able to work, to have, all your faculties to be able to do that. And I talk about being grateful all the time. And today was another example of that. So I've noticed too on Facebook, there's a lot of new business owners really excited about business, and I love to see it. And then sometimes I see older business owners kind of scolding them or kind of, trying to I don't know, rectify it or give their 2 cents. And here's what I feel. I feel like a lot of young business owners don't have enough. They have no fear. And I think a lot of older business owners have too much fear. And those two things, I think you have to have a grain of each. And I find it mostly in older business owners that feel like they kind of know it all. And they're the ones that want to, tell the younger business owners how to do it. And I always find that's kind of dangerous. But so tonight, I wanted to talk about the success kit. And I'm going to show you this thing. It's a poster I have. And it looks like, one of those food orders at like a diner, and it says thank you for ordering success, and it's a success kit, and it says number one, you get an order of hustle, focus, optimism, discipline, failure, risks, patience, criticism, persistence. The total cost right here, where's my hand, hard work. And here's my favorite line: the change due, nobody owes you shit. I love that. And then it's signed. And it's a poster that my friend Chuck Hall got me. I did not know who sent it to me at one point. I'm like, and finally he said, did you get some artwork? And I said, yeah. And so a couple of years ago, or a year ago, I did. Each one of those things has each one of those, success ingredients or orders. I did a podcast on each one of them, but tonight I'm going to go through several of them. And Tommy Nelm says he loves the poster. Yeah, that's a good poster. I think it's from a company called Iconic, Iconic, Iconic. I think if you like that, you can order them. But they've got some of those kind of, I don't like too many motivational things, but I think that one's pretty funny because I think these motivational things kind of have to have a bit of a seriousness to them. But anyway, if you like it, I love it. And so I've done quite a bit with it. So tonight, I want to go through those things. And again, I'm going to show this to you one more time. And you tell me what's the most important ones for you. Hustle, focus, optimism, discipline, failure, risks, patience, criticism, or persistence. Give me some feedback on what do you think is the thing that you really feel is, to me, there's, but and I'll talk about what I think, but give me some feedback if you can. So let's talk about it. The first one, let me get my brand up here, my banners. And so the first one is hustle. So let's see here. Got a handful of people watching in different things. I'm trying to keep up with it. So let's talk about hustle. To me, that is that's my thing. Here's Tommy. He says, I think it all starts with optimism. You know what? Let's just do that. Tommy is the president of CSI. He's the boss. He's the head guy. Let's start with what Tommy says. Optimism. So let me get that up here. Optimism. Pull it up right here. I think he's right. For me, I'm completely optimistic. In fact, I can't show these to you, but I've got, like, you've seen them before, unicorns. It looks like a grade school kid was sitting on my desk. I got all these little unicorn things. People send me unicorn stuff all the time. And to me, the unicorn is the optimism. It is, you believe in something that can happen. You believe in the possibilities. You believe in, not to be corny, but you believe in the better, the good things that can happen versus the pessimist versus So on the optimism, for me, it is a driving force every day. It starts with your people, I think. It starts when you get out of bed. Is this going to be a good day or is this going to be a bad day? And but I think with your people, here's the way I use optimism most with my employees. The first way is I believe in them. I'm optimistic for them. I'm optimistic that what they're going to tell me is the truth. I'm optimistic that they're going to do the best job they can. And sometimes I completely fail. They fail, and then I believed in them too much. And some people are saying, "Yeah, I told you so," or "I could have seen that a mile away." But you know what? If you're always like that, you also never have the chance to see the person that nobody believed in. And when you believed in them, it gave them hope. Some people never have any optimism in their life. And so for me, and I know Tommy's this way, Tommy's one of those guys that he believes things can happen. He believes, he started the Sweepaway Cancer Foundation and came to me and goes, "Man, I think we can do this." And I'm optimistic too. And I'm like, "I think we can." And that's how he is. And now he's the president for CSIA. And I know he's an optimistic guy. He's excited to lead the CSIA and our industry into the future. And he's out there shaking hands. He's out there mending fences. He's out there trying to build ties. And he's a complete optimist. So thank you, Tommy. I'm 100% in agreement that if you're a business owner without optimism, you're like a wet blanket on the whole business, on every aspect of the business. If you don't have optimism and you don't convey that, if you don't convey, "Hey guys, we're here this year and we're going to be there next year," if you don't convey that the company is growing and has an optimistic future for them, not just, "Hey, get out there and do the work and come back and get your paycheck." Like, what are we trying to do here? What are we building? And I think optimism, I agree. I think it is the number one ingredient. If you don't have it, you can have a lot of the other stuff. You can have focus and discipline and hustle, but if there's no optimism, you can burn people out pretty quickly. So good call, Tommy. I agree. That's number one. Oh, got another comment. Tommy says this, he said, "It's an honor to be in this industry and to serve." And that's him. He does think of it as an honor that he got selected to be next up, and he's doing a fantastic job. So thank you, Tommy. And I think Tommy's going to be on. This show normally ends at 7. He's going to then continue with Spark Marketer to talk about the listing to leads program that's out and to get more people involved. And he's going to talk about that on their show. So I highly encourage you to log on to Spark Marketer's program after this with Tommy. All right, so the next one. Let's look at the next one. Let's start with the first one, which is hustle. I don't think most people in blue collar work have a problem with this hustle part. To me, it seems like it's, especially owners, I don't think we really have a problem with hustle. I think a lot of us out here hustle, but sometimes it's the way you hustle. Like, what are you actually doing when you're busy? I have a friend of mine that's always busy. He's always covered up. He's always super busy, yet he gets very little done in a day. And when I look at his, if I ever look at what he's doing in a day, it's a lot of stuff that doesn't really move the needle. For years, I was super busy as a one-man operation. When I worked by myself, and sometimes I had helpers, but I really ran one truck for years. I was busy. I was beat. I was dead at the end of the day. I knew hustle, but I also wasn't necessarily hustling in the right way to build the business or ever change it. All I really did was hustle in a way that made my business busier and put more weight on me. I never hustled. If you take fire prevention and firefighting as an example, firefighters are hustlers, right? They're out there, they're working it, and nobody really pays attention to the fire prevention methods. The sprinkler systems and the fire extinguishers and the codes that keep you from burning something down. Like, that's all passive, but that's all. Somebody had to work on that. Somebody had to also be kind of in the background to develop all these things. Yet when they really work, nothing ever happens. But everybody celebrates the firefighter. Everybody celebrates those guys going in there and make it happen. And we need firefighters for sure. But in business, you don't always need to celebrate your business as a firefighting company. You need to celebrate your business as a prevention company, as a company that handles a lot of battles before they turn into fires for the business. Got another comment here. I've got, so Chad says optimism, hustle, and failure are his top 3. I like those. Let me check, see if I've got my buddy Jeff Jenkins is watching. He says, wise words. Jeff was on my podcast a couple of months ago, and he does teen development, I can't think of the word, but they bring troubled teens in. He works with them to give them a different aspect on life, and he's a very optimistic kind of guy, and he brings a lot of. He's an old wrestling partner of mine, so he's a good dude. Okay, so let's go to the next one. So when we were talking about, I keep getting a little bounced around here. I think again for the last part on hustle. If you're hustling, you're super busy, and you're always working a lot, and it never seems to change, that can be dangerous. That turns into a rut in your life. It turns into never getting out of the rut, and it becomes dangerous. And I talk about this on my podcast and in my book where, there's a biblical story about, the ox. And if the ox is in the pit, I think is what it is, or basically the ox is in the ditch, you can work on the Sabbath, you can work on Sunday to get the ox out. That's okay if you have to work that much. But a lot of guys run their lives where the ox is always in the ditch. And if you're always in hustle mode and you're always in firefighting mode, you're driving it in the ditch. You're driving it. That's the way you're driving it. And then what happens is they get so burned out, they just throw their hands up and say, forget it, I'm out. Or I quit, I'm burned out completely. Or, if they were building a business, they just scale it back. The old thing to say about it is, I'll go back to being smaller. It was easier when I was smaller. Well, the reason they grew was because it wasn't easier, smaller. They had to do all the work. They never got a break. If they took vacation, they didn't. They took a loss in the business. They worked all kinds of hours of the day. Now, some guys have it figured out. They work, a few jobs a day, make the money they need, and they're content. But I think that's the key. If you're not content, you probably hustle a lot because you want something different. Very good. Focus. All right. This is one of my favorite topics, is focus, because I think that is the thing that I can do pretty well. And then I'll focus real hard on starting something. I'll start a business. And then as quickly as I focus on starting something, as soon as I kind of have it figured out, I try to hand off chunks of the business or chunks of the new thing for other people to do, not for me to always do everything. A mentor of mine many years ago, he was amazing at focus. One thing he did was this was many years ago. I actually wrote about it in my book too, where he was, I think, 20 some years old and picked up chess. And I think he was 20. And I think by the time he was like 24 or 5, he was a world ranked chess player because he just focused on it so much and just completely got into it. And then in his 30s, he picked up golf. And a few years later, he actually qualified for the U.S. Open and never played until he was in his late 20s or early 30s and got serious about it. Then in his 40s, I got to know him in his late 40s. He had gotten into real estate. He had gotten into focusing on small houses, building them or buying them, fixing them up, renting them out. And by the time I was, I hadn't seen him in a long time, but he had probably 200 properties at the time. And he had focused on moving up and up, where he had apartment complexes, and he had a bank, he had an airport, he had, strip malls, and he became very focused on whatever he was doing. He just stayed focused on it until it caught fire. And he taught me how to do that. Now, he's better than I am at it, but I think I can. I think any business owner, one of the things I see with a lot of business owners is they don't stay focused on the thing long enough to catch it on fire. They focus on it, and then it never really gets going, and then they jump to something else. They jump to some new thing, and then they have several things that nothing is really going amazingly, and they are just kind of languishing in a lot of mediocre businesses. I did that too. I started several businesses. I had a vending business. I had a pressure washing business. I was a drummer, had a side little chimney business. I think I got into a multi-level marketing thing about like, I think we was selling insurance, legal insurance kind of thing. And I was just trying all these things. And it wasn't until I put all those things down and truly focused on the chimney business and said, I'm going to absolutely focus on this one thing and get it going. And then I did, and then it then opens up other doors. Once it's really going and you kind of hand that off, then you can start something else. But you learn how to get a business to the level of momentum. And that's where a lot of businesses die. They never really get momentum, and they don't really take off. All right, so the next one, we already covered optimism. So let's go to discipline. This probably is a big weakness for a lot of people. I think, discipline is a thing where you get up every morning and go to work, but that's not really discipline. Discipline is working on your craft, working to get better every day. And that's where education comes into play. There's some guys in my industry that have been in the business a very long time, but they really never learned anything new for the last 20 years. They, you especially find it in like some masons and some trades where people said, I've been doing this for 35 years, but they really haven't learned anything new in a long time because they're not open to learning things new. They don't listen to anybody or follow anybody. There's guys in my industry now that don't seem like they learn anything new. What they said 10 years ago is the same as they say today. And I think, discipline and, if you're watching this SureFire live, you probably are pretty good at learning. You're probably open to learn. If you're spending your hour on a Tuesday night in the middle of busy season, you're probably wired to learn new things and hoping that, you'll learn something tonight or something can motivate you a little bit or something can be a little bit of an aha moment. And, but there's most people, obviously I probably got 50 people watching this through all the different channels live. And, but there's 8,000 chimney sweeps in the U.S. So you're among the very, very few that are trying to do something tonight. Got another comment here. Chad says, my big failures always equal $1 million growth result. That is, I think when I get into failure, that's so good. And I want to go into that because that's a fact for me as well. So again, focus, discipline. Lastly, on discipline, podcasts, audiobooks, live situations, in-person education events, mastermind groups, all those kind of things will absolutely. That's part of my discipline. Every day I have certain times I don't get on the phone. I'm just listening to something new to try to get in my brain. If you're driving around with music all day long, you're not disciplined. You've got hours in that vehicle. You got hours to drive around. That needs to be an education source for you. Now, sometimes, you got to listen to some music. Chad, sometimes you got to listen to a little Luke Combs. But if that's what you're doing every day between stuff, you're not very disciplined. That's not how discipline works. Another comment, humility. Oh yeah, that's a good one. That's not on the success list, but it should be. All right. So then the next one is failure. So Chad had just said that his failures have $1 million marks or $1 million. His failures have a bunch of zeros on the end. One time I was listening to a guy talk, and he was very successful. And it was in an arena. It was one of these events where there's these big speakers. He said, I'm the biggest failure in here. He said, I failed more than any of you guys, and by far. And my failures have a bunch of zeros on the end of them. And because I've failed more than you, I've also probably had more success in this realm than most people have too. And so he said, most really successful people you run into are also the biggest failures. And if you read many biographies and you follow many very successful people, they've had the biggest failures. And so failure is good and bad. In fact, failure is not the opposite of success, right? Failure is on the same side of the equation as success. Failure is part of success. It's not the opposite of success. In school, we're taught that failure is the opposite of an A, right? You got an F or you got an A, and you're diametrically opposed. Well, that's not how real world is. You have to fail. We're taught don't fail, don't fail, don't fail. And then you get out in the business world and you're scared to fail. And that's most of us, and I think Chad has a saying, I think he says, go make a mistake. Type it in here, Chad, what you tell people. It's almost like go fail fast, or go get yourself in trouble, I think is what he says. And so that's his personality toward failure, that failure is part of the deal. And you don't want to fail a ton. You don't want to fail huge, but you do want to have kind of constant micro failures where you tried something and it didn't work. And everybody's heard those cliche things from Edison where it wasn't 10,000 failures on the light bulb. It was 10,000 ways that the light bulb didn't work. In the chocolate business, the other day we had to throw out, I probably shouldn't say this out loud, but we had to throw out a lot of chocolate because we misguessed how many people would buy this certain product. And our chocolate is super fresh, so it has a short shelf life. Comes the end of shelf life and we're throwing all this chocolate away. I'm like, what happened? Like, well, we misguessed how many people were going to buy it at this certain event. And we're always in the guessing game. How many should we make? Are they going to like this new product? Are they going to not like it? And so I just watched, what went in the trash. And so I immediately went and bought a bigger freezer, because the truth is, if we would have had the freezer to hold it till Christmas, it would have been fine, because they either have to be eaten fresh or frozen. And I'm like, well, we're getting a freezer. We are not going to throw away, hundreds of product because we didn't have a way to do anything with them and they ran through their shelf life. So I think failure is part of success for sure. The opposite of success and failure is not trying, is not even giving it a shot. Rachel says failure is learning how not to do something. It's experience, right? So failure is learning how not to do something. And that experience is for sure what I was talking about when I opened this live was all these new business owners that are out there are in an unbelievable market where everybody is buying what you have. And you think you're this amazing business person, and you are because you got in the battle. But also there's a lot of us have been in a long time and we're a little bit worried. So I want you to have the success, and I want you to have the experience of success, and you're probably feeling that in the service-based business right now. And at the same time, be careful for what comes on the other side. Yeah, here it is. Chad says, "Get yourself into trouble." I like that quote. He said that. I think he said he might even write a book about that. And I think that's, to that point, that is part of success. And we've all got them, these huge stories that everything went wrong for us, but we learn from it. My whole story changed the day I fell 30 feet off of a roof, broke my legs, hurt myself super bad, and tried to get out of the business. And that day, which was a life and death experience for me, actually made me better. It was a complete failure. It made me it helped me understand the weaknesses I had in the business I'd built. It was a completely weak business model that I'd built all on my back. And it made me go, huge failure. Can I come out of it? Now, it's always easy to connect the dots backwards. I can look back and go, that was a moment. But when you're in the moment, you don't know that it's the right decision. So a lot of you people out there that are trying to come up with big decisions. Should I grow the company? Should I add one truck? Should I add 10 trucks? Some of that there's no way to know. You can connect the dots backwards, but you have to try. You have to try to fail and then learn from it. Don't take too much learning from it. You can't say, because I learned 20 years ago, I made this mistake, I'll never do that again. Whenever I hear somebody say that, that's a terrible mindset. So good stuff. Thank you guys for all the comments too. And we're going through them pretty quickly. I'm about halfway through the show. So let's go on to risks. Risks, to me right now, it's a really risky time in business because it's so good. It's also risky. That being said, I signed a bunch of paperwork today to buy a new business, to buy I've talked about it for quite a while. Finally, all the paperwork's coming through. I'm buying a decent size powder coating operation that powder coating is a type of coatings for industrial, or for, you've even got it on your, lawn furniture that's been powder coated. It's not painted. And this company I'm buying was a family owned business, and they did not like being in as a family. It was a tough dynamic. So they're selling it to me. I do some powder coating in chimney caps already. I mean, we have them do it, but this is a much bigger operation with industrial level stuff for big, Fortune 500 companies that need this product. And man, I'm putting all the chips on the table. I signed a bunch of stuff, and I'm going for it in this business that I know very little about, but I do have faith in our systems. I have faith in what we're going to do. And I'm taking a risk right now on several levels. Right behind that, we're going to build a new building for my company. And why not take the risk? I mean, I might tie those dots together and look back and go, wow, that was a mistake. But I'm going to have to try it. If you're listening to this podcast or this Facebook Live and you're wondering if you should go for it, I'm going to tell you, yes, you should. I don't even care what it is. I'm going to say that, yes, you should. That might be because you don't know. You can't sit on the sidelines and figure it out. You can't sit on the sidelines and go, oh, yeah, for sure that's going to work, and for sure that's not going to work. You can't do that. That's not how this works. If that were the case, well, it's just not the case. I'm just going to tell you right now, you can't sit on the sidelines and figure out if it's going to work. What you have to do is go through the door. You have to take the risk. You have to invest some money. You have to invest the time, and then you'll know. And then another door could open, or that door could go, wow, that was a mistake. I've got several businesses under my belt that did not work, but something else worked from it. My chocolate business, I had bought a franchise. It's kind of a business opportunity. It's different than a franchise, but I bought the rights to this certain chocolate company. Somebody else made the chocolate. Then we sold it. Well, that started off good. It started off amazingly good at first, and then it just was going downhill. And then we got into malls, and malls were going downhill, and just all kinds of problems. And out of that, we decided to build our own brand, go to chocolate school, build our own brand, get our own equipment, make our own product, control the whole thing. Now, at this point, that's working really well. It's getting momentum. But I've got several businesses that did not work, and then something good came out of it. And then people look back and go, wow, how did that work? Well, how did you know to do that? Well, I did know how to do it. Nobody could have told me in the day when I started my chimney business in 1985, that it would turn into what it's turned into. No one could see it. It's impossible to see it. There's no way. So you have to get in. And then you can seem like a genius because you were so smart that you started this chimney sweep business. Said no one ever. No one ever said that this is a good idea ever till later. And then they're like, oh, that's pretty smart. But that wasn't the case. You have to believe in yourself. You have to take the risks. And then you have to chalk it up and learn as you go. The next one is patience. To me, I'm a pretty patient guy. I'm a pretty patient person. I think I don't feel really in a rush a lot for almost anything. Sometimes things have to develop on their own and have time. You can put stuff into place and think it's going to move quickly and it doesn't, or you can put stuff into place and think it's going to move slower and it takes off. And I've had several businesses that were like that. And for me, I have to plant the seed and then I have to water it and be patient for when it grows. And there's a there's a story. I think it's a real story. It's a Chinese bamboo tree, and you can look it up. Of course, you can Google it. And forgive me if it's the wrong plant, but basically, this plant for 5 years doesn't grow. You know, they water it, and it stays, like, if I remember right, pretty short, not very tall. But what it's doing is it's developing a huge ball of roots underneath it. And so for the longest time, it doesn't look like it's growing. And then something kicks in and it becomes the fastest growing plant on the planet. And I think it grows up to a foot a day or something like that. But more than anything, it's the analogy of patience, of building something and watering it and watching it and making sure it's taken care of. And all of a sudden, it starts to just take off. Several years ago, when I read this story, I put it into play for my one of my strategic meetings for my company. Every year, we will have a strategic planning meeting. And I kind of show where we are, where we've been, where we're going, how we're getting there. And maybe I should do a SureFire Live on a strategic planning meeting, so kind of you can see some of the details of it. But part of it is what makes us different. How, what's the plan, and really how are we going to get there? Not just we're going to add $2 million in gross revenue, but how are we going to get there? We're going to add trucks. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. We're going to invest in this training or that. And so, so on a strategic plan, I did the bamboo tree, and I said, I've been in this business for, at the time when I did the plan, I think 25 years, and we'd hit some decent marks. But I said, I think it's about to take off. We finally have all the things in place, and in the next couple of years, it's going to grow tremendously. And that's been true. It's been an amazing amount of growth. We're growing somewhere between 20 and 40% a year. And for a mature company, that can be pretty hard. But we put all the things in place. We were patient. And now that, those things that we put in place are bearing fruit. Let's see, I got another comment. Get counsel on those risks too. That's a good point. So, and I'm not sure who put this out there, but that's an excellent point. When you are taking risks, getting counsel. Here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to say, and this might be a little out there, but it may not be family members and it may not be friends that you get counsel from, because a lot of times your family and your friends aren't the best counsel unless they've already been there. Like if they've already had the business that you want or lived the life you want or doing the things you want to do, yes, perfect counsel. But if they haven't, they're not necessarily the ones to talk to. So you want to talk to people who have been there, who are going there, who've been there for years and can look back and help you. So at this point, I wish I knew who said this, but getting counsel on those risks too is a very good idea. I can tell you one time, this young couple came to work with me. She came into some money and she had some land. And is this Jake Cromwell or Jake Loeffler? Or Jake Ryan. There's a few Jakes out there. So this girl came to me, and I think it was her fiance, and she said, "I want to build a tiny home, like compound. I've got this land out in the country, and I've really been interested in these tiny homes." Jake Cromwell, hey buddy, thank you for watching. So I said, "Cool, okay. How are you going to do that?" And she's like, "Well, I want to get all these shipping containers. I want to get these containers, and I want to put them out there. And I've been watching these shows, and I want to make these into a tiny home community with these shipping containers." I'm like, "Okay. Have you ever welded?" "No." "Have you ever built a house?" No. Have you ever, like, I went down the list of the things that it was going to take to turn this shipping container into a house, and she'd done none of them. And I said, the good, you've got land, you've got some money, but you have none of the skills. So do not invest a bunch of money into a container that you're going to try to turn into a money making thing. You're going to get very frustrated. You're probably not going to be successful. I said, if you really want to do this, buy a small tiny home kit. Hire a contractor to help put it together, and you be his labor the whole time and put this thing together. Make sure you have the business that people will come to this tiny home. And now, because you're trying to start multiple businesses, you're trying to be a contractor, you're trying to be a builder, you're trying to be a welder, you're trying to be an Airbnb host, you're trying to make money at, then you're going to manage the land. Like, you're going to jump into 6 or 7 businesses in this one thing. So to that point, get counsel on risks. I talked to her I heard from her the other day where she never did start that. I'm not trying to tell people not to. I'm just trying to help them understand what she's really saying she's going to do before you waste a bunch of money. I was talking to a guy the other night that started a new business, and he was wondering what the right rate of growth is. What's too fast? What's too slow? And I kind of put some ideas in his head about where he is, what's possible, what his risk tolerance is. And I think it was very helpful for him. He thanked me, and he was on his way to a game plan. So that's a great point to get help. All right, I have got a few more minutes, but I got 2 more. So this is a good one. Criticism. Let me make sure I don't have any more people listening. Mike Mitchell Stonebarger, I've been speaking with him. He is going for it. He absolutely is going for it. And Mitchell, I saw him, he's asking some questions, and I saw, some people, reach back and say some mean things to him. And Chad's like, what does that have to do with, anything? He asked, how many people had 10 trucks, it's a good question. And there are all these people that wanted to give their opinions on 10 trucks, good or bad, which was not even the question. So it's kind of funny. So Jeremy Adams, he runs our HVAC division. He's the manager there. He says, if you don't have failures, you are not trying hard enough. And so me and Jeremy know failures in HVAC. Not many. He's doing a great job, but it's, more than anything on that new company for us. I don't know a lot about it. He knows a ton about it. But, we're learning breakdowns in the system, breakdowns in the software, breakdowns in the routing and the people and the scripting and the pricing. And so Jeremy's not afraid of failure. He's a military guy, and he understands it very well. I'm lucky to have him on the team, but we're going through some failures right now, not in a bad way. Just most of them are good failures. Like, I shouldn't have done that. Oh, I forgot to do that. Oh, we need to change this or learn that. And it's been a great process, but he understands it right there with me. Make sure I've got all the questions answered. Tiffany Stoner, my sister-in-law, says, live no doubt. I guess I can't get enough. Live no doubt. Oh, she said live no doubt. Yeah, so we just spent some time at Thanksgiving with them. It was fantastic. All right, so let's go to the next one. Criticism. So a couple things on criticism. I think you have to have criticism. I think sometimes the bully in your life will change your life for the better. Sometimes they'll say the hard thing that you're not supposed to say or that hurt your feelings, and you learn from it. You're like, oh man, that's probably right. I've got several stories where I will tell somebody the hard thing if I think it will help them. And I've told them stuff that no one would want to say to a person, but I'll say it to them. And I always appreciate it back when somebody tells me some kind of criticism in the way to help me, not to hurt my feelings or degrade you or take something super personal. But sometimes you need to know the thing. And I have a funny story. Larry Winget, who was a mentor of mine, he said when he was a kid, he always wore the same pair of pants. He had a funny saying. He said, we weren't dirt poor, but we were dusty. And So he had like the same pair of pants that he wore to school, and he was talking to these girls this one day, and they were talking to him, and this other kid came up and said, "Damn, wing it! You only got one pair of pants. You wear the same pants every single day." And he said he was just, and it was true. He was completely mortified. He didn't think anybody really paid attention. He felt terrible about it. But he also said that day, he said, "I will never be poor again. I will never be broke. I will never." This kid shined a light on something that absolutely changed his life. Now, there for a while, Larry Winget, I went to his house. He had 2,500 he had, I'm sorry, a wall full of $2,500 custom boots, like a wall, floor to ceiling. He dressed always a very flashy way, and he was known for the way he dressed. It was kind of outlandish, but very expensive too. And he got a lot of, criticism and praise for it. But that bully helped save him. One day, I had to tell a guy in my company that he had really bad breath, and everybody's like, "Man, this guy has the worst breath. I can't ride with him. I hate it. I can't take it." And so somebody needs to talk to him. Well, I bought him like a water pick, and I bought him some Listerine and all the things. That, "Hey, buddy, I gotta tell you, your breath is so bad that the guys are really complaining about, when they're driving with you." And he's like, "Yeah, I know. I'm afraid of the dentist, and I know I've got some problems." So he started using the water pick and the toothbrush and the stuff. But when he came in the morning, you could tell he'd used it, but it was still midday. It was just terrible. So I called my friend who was a dentist, and he was always afraid to go to the dentist. And I sent him she did charity work, and they looked at him and found out he had a huge infection up in his sinus cavity. It was almost to his brain, and so they had to give him antibiotics for like 30 days to get the infection down, and then they had to pull all of his teeth and give him full dentures. The truth is, it saved his life. The dentist said he was about to have an infection go to his brain and could have killed him, and so sometimes that criticism is necessary from the right person who cares about you, who's trying to tell you the right thing. To me, I felt that was a win, although it was a super hard conversation. I've had several of these conversations that sometimes people don't take them well. Sometimes people do not take criticism well, especially to your face. And sometimes they look back and go, "Man, thank you." Sometimes criticism is firing people. Sometimes you have to fire people. And I bet everybody on here that's owned a business has also had people come back to them and say, "Thank you. I'm glad you fired me. I needed to be fired. Um, I was not doing the right thing, and you called me on it." This one time, I had a production manager that something was off. He was buying a lot of stuff. It was just something was off. I had problems with him. I finally fired him. Several years later, he went through a 12-step program, and one day I go into my shop, and I've got all this chimney, like vacuums and dampers and caps and all this equipment sitting outside my fence. He had started another chimney company, but he wrote me a letter and said, "When you fired me, I was stealing from you. You knew I was stealing from you. You called me on it. I lied to you. And the only way I can make this right is I'm getting out of the chimney business, but you can have my gear." Now, I couldn't use any of the gear, but the truth was, he always remembered that I was critical of him, and it wore on him, and it took years. And it finally, he broke through, and to make it right was to give me all his stuff and apologize. But somebody else said something about criticism. Rachel says, "Consider who the criticism comes from. This determines if it's gold or trash." Yeah, completely. You do have to. To me, it's the way the criticism is delivered. It's who it's from, and then I can take it or leave it. And sometimes criticism can be a lot more beneficial than praise. Criticism, I need somebody to tell me if my service is messed up. I need somebody to tell me if my chocolate company is not doing something right. I need that criticism in a good way because we build from it. Jeremiah McNeese says, you need to accept the hard stuff. I try to accept the hard stuff and own it and not place blame and point fingers. Yeah. My friend, I talk about pointing fingers, and that old saying, if you're pointing fingers, three of them are pointing back at you. And my friend Cliff says, not the way I point. He's a Marine and he points like this. So all of them are going right at you. But you're right about criticism and looking at yourself. The other day, we had one of our technicians criticized another division of ours. And the first thing I said was, okay, I don't like the criticism, but one, is there any truth in it? Is there any nugget of truth in this criticism, or is it all BS? Can we, one, not take it personal, and two, can we learn something from it? And so when I asked this division manager that, he's like, well, there may be some truth in this. And then we were actually, it goes back to powder coating. We were having some powder coating done from another company before we own ours, and it was kind of thin. I'm like, well, is it thin? He's like, well, in this one, it was a little bit thin. And so there's some truth in it. To take that criticism and learn from it. It's like eating peanuts. You eat what's good and you throw away the rest. You take that criticism that's good and you get rid of any of the negative stuff around it. A couple more things. Chad says, criticism done right turns into wisdom if acted upon. Ooh, that is good. That is good. I'm going to read that again. Criticism done right turns to wisdom if acted upon. Good stuff. Thank you, Chad. That's freaking gold right there, man. I've got a couple more. Thank you guys for all chiming in. Here's coming. Colby Armstrong says, I've been having a lot of those tough conversations lately. Not fun for a nice guy like me, but necessary. Oh man, being a nice guy you got to have that balance. I've learned that you should still be a nice guy, nice person. And I say this a lot, you want to make sure you're being kind. Kind is the main thing, because kind is for other people. Being nice a lot of times is for yourself. Being nice is so that people like you. Being nice is so that you don't stir any pots and you don't cause any problems. And being nice is also one of the worst things you can be, especially as a business owner. But being kind, being considerate, being humble, but also being direct, and holding your ground at the right time is absolutely key to leadership. Jeremiah says, David Goggins and Jocko Willink changed my life. Yeah. So Jocko Willink's book is Extreme Ownership. We talk about that a lot. Dave Goggins' book is, what is that? Can't Hurt Me. Oh my gosh. If you haven't read Can't Hurt Me, or better yet, don't read it. Listen to it, because it's like, one guy's reading it, and then David Goggins is talking between the chapters, almost like a podcast. Man, that's gold right there. Absolutely. And Jeremiah says, extreme ownership is a must in life, professionally and personally. So extreme ownership is really how to you don't take blame for it, but you own the outcome. You own the result. And as leaders, we definitely have to be able to take criticism. We have to take it on the shoulders. Now, I've seen some people read extreme ownership and do it the wrong way. I had a technician of mine that's not with us anymore read it, and he's like, okay, well, whenever he go into any situation, I know it's all my fault, so let's just figure out that. And he just totally tried to dismiss the learning aspect of criticism. Instead of, he just, I don't know, he just ruined the book in so many ways because he didn't read it right. So guys, that's about my time. This is awesome. I'm going to show it one more time. Again, this is my favorite. I love this thing. It's actually like on a wooden frame like this, but it looks like a big thing. So it says, thank you for ordering success. And again, you don't have to be a business owner for this to work. This is life. These are life lessons. This is being a better husband. This is being a better mother. This is being, just a better person. But again, hustle, focus, optimism, discipline, failure, risks, patience, criticism, persistence. Your total cost is hard work. You don't get out of this without doing hard work. And lastly, nobody owes you shit. They don't owe you anything. And but when you understand that, that's one of our big problems that right now is we think the government or somebody owes me something. And man, if you can get that off your plate, that nobody owes you anything, you're lucky to be here. You're lucky to have the problems you have. I think it gets a lot more tolerable. So, all right, guys, fantastic night. Thank you for all of the feedback and the comments. Let me just check the comments here. Good stuff. Yeah. So, all right, that's our time. We're going to do it again next week. If you got any comments or any topics that you would like me to cover, I'm going to start going into some planning for next year. This year is wrapping up, and I'm going to talk about how we plan for next year and some of the ideas that we have. And so, please, if you have any ideas for the shows, let me know. I can always use topics or guests for that matter. All right, guys, that's my time. We'll talk to you next week.